room, and I would spend the full day working through what were maybe 5 or 6 world skills level tasks. And the more experience you get in doing these kind of tasks, the more things go wrong and the quicker you get at solving these problems.
And did you have any training after winning the competition in Birmingham? Did you have did you become like an ambassador or anything like that? Did you have any further training?
So after Birmingham, I went on to the rotation for Euroskills. So I was at 2 training events, I think, in London, where we went to Middlesex University, where Dirk works, who's the coordinator for WorldSkills UK for the lab techs. And he held some training events down there where it was more informal than competition, but still provided some training. And then now I'm at university studying chemistry, so my training continues.
Yes, and how are you enjoying that now? Is it something you'd have considered sort of, was it always part of the plan that you were going to go to university?
Yeah, it was always part of the plan, whether it was going to be chemistry or something more biology centred, whether that be even biochem or immunology, something like that, was always on the radar. But I think on the back of WorldSkills, it was very much pure chemistry is the way to go about things.
So in terms of the competition and the benefits of doing the competition now, do you think that that's going to help you in future with your career? Have you found that it's sort of helped you now with your degree?
I think as far as technical ability goes, it's certainly helped with my ability to kind of work in a lab and conduct myself safely and in a good manner within a lab. Like I say, the more experience you get, the more chance you get to try different techniques and you learn what you're good at and what you're not good at. But I mean, outside of technical ability, for like even my own confidence, it's done wonders, because it's all very well people saying, "Oh, you're good at doing that," or "Yeah, that was really good." But when you go on and you win competitions and you secure gold medals at national level, it really does give you that, hold on, maybe I am really good at doing this, and you actually start to believe in yourself a little more.
So you said that you were doing a HNC. What route did you go down before doing the HNC? Did you do a vocational course, or did you do like A levels, or what route did you take?
So I done what are advanced hires in Scotland. I think advanced hires are kind of A level. I'm not sure the transfer there. I done that in, I think, 2014. I finished school, and then I just went into work for 5 or 6 years, or 4 or 5 years, totally unrelated, and decided that I had to go back and do something and try and kind of upskill and learn something new and kind of go and get some better qualifications. So I decided that the HNC was the best road to go down to get into uni.
Okay, excellent. And what sort of advice would you give anyone, do you think, who's interested in taking part in these competitions?
Is jump in with 2 feet. There's no point in not going for it. I mean, you've not done it now, but if you go for it and it works out, great. If it doesn't work out, then you've learned new skills, you've met new people. I mean, this is, as much as it's about learning, it's about networking as well, and you meet new people, and these people come in handy further down the line when you're looking for things like references and jobs and different things throughout your career. Yeah, definitely just go for it. That will do wonders for your confidence, and it will certainly help your career further down the line.
And how did you feel when you had to go and collect that gold medal then up in Birmingham?
I think, I don't know, I feel like I kind of blinked the moment I stood up from the table, and it went dark until I was in the back of the NEC in Birmingham. It was just absolutely surreal when you're standing on the stage and there's all those people sitting and they're looking at you, they're not looking at anyone else. It's unlike anything I've ever felt before. That was surreal.
Yeah, I had a competitor who won gold in the forensics, and her family came up as well for the evening, and there were tears all around. It was a very emotional time. Yeah. Oh, excellent. We're joined as well by Rachel, and Rachel is also going to explain to some of the Welsh students what support is available if they wish to go on to do World Skills. So Rachel, are you there?
Hi, yes, I am. Yeah, so basically in Wales, we really, we've got this project that funds these competitions that I work for. It's called the Inspiring Skills Excellence in Wales project. And part of our funding is one, to encourage you all to take part in skills competitions, such as the Welsh competition, but also then to take part in World Skills UK. So the registration is coming up now. I think it opens on the 19th of April for this year. There'll be, I haven't heard the details of this year's competition yet, but there'll probably be a passive heat that, and Lewis has probably explained to you the process then, going through to Birmingham. But if you are successful and get into a position like Lewis, my project, the Inspiring Skills project, has a pot of funding then that supports you on your journey. So we pay for equipment, we pay for you to have experiences in like world-class settings. Now, lab tech would be a first for us in Wales to get that far, so that would be amazing. But to give you an example, in similar sectors, well, not similar sectors, other sectors, so for catering, for example, we've had people go and train in Michelin star restaurants, and our funding is paid for that, for them then to get those experiences to really support them on their journey to potentially competing in the World Skills platform, World Skills stage in, what would be Lyon now, I think in 2024, the dates have changed because of COVID. So, but yeah, so if anyone is interested, please speak to your tutors, because I'll be in touch with your tutors, and have a look on the World Skills UK website, which is worldskillsuk.org.uk, if you want to register. If anyone has any questions about that, please pop them in the chat, that would be fab.
I believe that Kath, one of my competitors, she went, I can't remember where it was somewhere else in the country, and she did some training with things like Olympic athletes on sort of like stamina and how to compete in these like competitions. She had a whole load of just really amazing training as part of the process of just getting to World Skills. So that was even before she got to the final in Birmingham. She had, you know, so many amazing experiences. She was quite overwhelmed by it.
Yeah, I mean, Lewis, have you had any of that sort of experiences from your camp?
Oh yeah, after I'd won the gold medal and went into the rotation for what was Graz, obviously it'll now be Lyon in 2023, 2024, whenever that happens. We went to a training camp in Loughborough University, and it was 2 days over the weekend where they had like sports psychologists and Olympians and lots of other people who are just there for your personal and professional development. They're there to show you how to be more confident, how to deal with stress and the kind of the pressures of the competition, because as much as saying, oh, I've got through to Birmingham's great, that's a pressure like you won't ever experience having all those eyes on you. People you don't know, school kids coming in, everybody's watching and all eyes are on you. But obviously get on to Europe and potentially Worlds, that's amplified further. So they've got a full team of people who are just purely devoted to making sure that you are competition ready, and it's a fantastic team, and it's a really, really good experience.
We've got a question I can see from Mark. So he says, what was it like in the actual competition? Was it a cluster of mini labs? So how would you describe the setup?
So in Birmingham, we had 2 days of competition where we done 4 different tasks. So the 2 days were split in half. We done 2 tasks each day. We were told at the start we had tasks A, B, C, and D. We knew that one was, say, chromatography, one was titration, one was something else, but we didn't know any other details. So they put a rota up, and day one I knew that I was doing, say, task B, chromatography, and then titration in the afternoon, and then day two was the same again but 2 different tasks. The tasks were typically 4 hours each. That's start to finish, risk assessment, all your lab analysis, and then clean up and report writing across the 2 days. I think in euros that day is extended further, and you're into 3 days. I think there's 5 or 6 tasks that you would do there. So it's intense. It's pretty heavy going, but you need to be prepared for 2 very long days.
And it's quite strange, isn't it, having to do it on display to the public as well?
Yeah, definitely. At the start, obviously the NEC is huge. For anyone that's not been, it's like a football stadium's got nothing on the NEC. It's enormous, and there's so many things going on, other skills, and you've got people coming in from schools and companies, and there's thousands of people walking around, and you've also got judges staring over your shoulder, and you'll all understand. I always say that if you're filling up a volumetric flask and you're looking at the line, you're looking through the line of the bottle, but you've got a judge staring back at the other side at you. So that can be very daunting, but you kind of find that after the first hour or two of competition that everything round about you becomes immaterial, and you're focused on the task at hand, and you start to kind of drown everything else out.
Yeah, the NEC as well, if anyone's kind of not been up to it before, to the World Skills Competition, it's quite an experience just to visit without even competing in it, because they have so many experts doing talks on different careers in science, demonstrations. It is an absolutely massive event, and I would recommend, if anyone has the opportunity to go up, to just go for the day and have a little look around it. It's definitely well worth it. Perhaps I'm just gonna share my screen. I just looking for a picture then from the Lab Tech competition, and I just found this one. So this gives you an example, like what it was like with all the different stations. I can't actually see. Can you see yourself there, Lewis?
Yeah. So on the right hand side, the person sitting down, the very first person, I'm pretty sure that's me. That was a salt slit extraction. That was the very last task. Yeah. That was probably the most relaxed, because that was the end of day 2 and everyone was a bit more chilled out at that point.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a fantastic experience, but I don't think World Skills UK this year is going to be like it was. I think what they're planning is, this is only from what I've heard so far, I think they're still under discussions, but it's just going to be the competitions rather than the big careers event. And it's going to be more focused on staff CPD. So if our students go in there, it's probably just going to be the students in competitions and then staff CPD events dotted around, rather than it being the whole, because they used to have like 90,000 children through that over the 3 days. But obviously because of COVID, I don't think they're planning for that this year, because there will still be some sort of restrictions in November.
I mean, building on that, if there's anyone who's particularly not as confident with the idea of it being really, really busy, then this year is the year to go for it. If it's going to be a lot quieter and you're talking thousands less people, then your confidence isn't as great as it could be, then this is a year to go for it.
Yeah, yes, definitely. Yeah. Okay, thank you ever so much for your time.
No worries at all.
I can see that Catherine's here, who'll be doing the next session. You're welcome to continue to join us, Lewis, because again, this might be of use to you as well. Catherine's from the Royal Society of Chemistry, and she's going to talk this afternoon about how you become a registered scientist or science technician, which again, I think might be valuable to you. But thank you ever so much again, Lewis, for your time. And
thank you. I'll mute myself and hang around, see what else is going on. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Okay, so Catherine, I will hand over to you. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. And you're going to talk about registered professional status.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you, Amy. And thank you very much for having me this afternoon. I hope you've had a good morning today. So, like Amy said, I'm going to be talking about professional registration, and I've got a presentation to share. So you should be able to see my screen now.
Yeah.
So brilliant, thank you. Like Amy said, I'm from the Royal Society of Chemistry. But just to give you a little bit of background, before I joined the Royal Society of Chemistry, I worked as a lab technician at a university in a teaching lab, and I had the opportunity to become a registered science technician while I was there. So it's a really good opportunity to apply some of the skills that I'd learned in my education and in a professional lab setting to becoming a lab technician, and then compiling that experience to get professional registration status. I'm going to be pausing at certain points throughout my presentation. If there are any questions you have on what I've just spoken about, please pop your questions in the chat. And when I pause, Amy, perhaps you could let me know if there are any other questions that have come in that I can answer before moving on to the next section. So this presentation is going to be referencing the Royal Society of Chemistry, or the RSC's website, and specific pages on the website. So if you'd like a copy of the slides with the hyperlinks, please just drop me an email and I can forward them over. My contact details are on the screen, and they'll also be at the end of the presentation. So hopefully today you will know what professional registration is after my session, or have a better understanding if you're already aware of it. You should understand the relevance and the benefits of professional registration, have an overview of what the application process entails, and you should know where to get support from. So just a bit of background about the Royal Society of Chemistry. We were established in 1841 as the Chemical Society, and then we became the Royal Society of Chemistry as we are now in 1980, after kind of joining forces with 3 other chemical societies. And the reason we get to use the word royal in our name is because we have a royal charter, which is a document that sets out our purpose or our objectives as a society that's been signed by the Queen. And our object is the general advancement of chemical science and its application. And one of the points within our purpose is regarding establishing, upholding and advancing the standards of qualification, competence and conduct of those who practice chemistry as a profession. So to meet that purpose, we support our members to work to and uphold those standards that the Charter talks about through professional registration. And in particular, that word competence is the part we are talking about with professional registration. But what is professional registration? So it's defined as providing independent recognition of your achievements and maintaining the exact standards required to join the global community of professional scientists. And this is a quote from the Science Council, and it references the Science Council, but they're separate from the Royal Society of Chemistry. The Science Council is a membership organisation for professional bodies and other societies within science. So they have membership, but their members are other organisations as opposed to individuals. And they are the ones who host the professional registers, and they decide on what skills and behaviours or competencies you need to demonstrate to meet those standards. As opposed to the Royal Society of Chemistry, we are a professional body, but we're also a licensed body for the registers. So what that means is we can award registered science technician and the other professional awards on behalf of the Science Council. So that's how we work together. A key point is that you do need membership to a professional body, be that the Royal Society of Chemistry or any other professional body, to earn and maintain your registered status. So professional registration is a development framework, and it's based on your professional skills as opposed to anything you might have learned in education. We have awards that would be appropriate at all stages of a career, from apprentices to people who've worked in science for a long time. And it demonstrates competence or your ability to carry out skills, techniques, and professional behaviours. And it demonstrates this to employers, perhaps customers that you work with in your workplace. You get to gain recognition for your skills and experience, and the process also includes an aspect of mentoring, so you do get support when you're going for professional registration. It's a really nice opportunity to reflect on some of the experiences you've had and the skills you've learned, and you get to use the letters after your name. So the Science Council has a number of different awards, from Registered Science Technician, Registered Scientist, Chartered Scientist, and today I'm going to be talking about Registered Science Technician. So why should you apply for professional registration? So the main benefit is that demonstration that you meet a number of standards and that you're working at a professional level. And this evidence could be used to support your career development, from internal promotions, getting job interviews, or earning a higher grade job. But also things like you get to put together evidence of your technical expertise and the quality and impact of your work. It's a professional and public recognition of your skills and experience. So what I mean by that is the Science Council has a register of everyone who has professional registered status. And this is available on their website to search. So it could be for applying for a job. The potential employer might want to check on that public register to see if someone has registered status. Like I said, you get to use letters after your name. So in this case, it's Registered Science Technician, or RSciTech. And you also have access to additional career supports. And then after Registered Science Technician, depending on experience and job role, it may be that Registered Scientist or a higher award, like a Chartered Award, is more appropriate. But don't just take my word for it. We've got case studies, and this is one from the Science Council's website of Ross Cameron, who is a member of the RSC, but is also a Registered Science Technician. And in this profile, they've talked about how professional registration has made an impact on their work, and also the benefits of being a member of the RSC, which, as I mentioned, is required to be professionally registered. So you can find this on the Science Council's website, which is also where the register is held. And we've got a couple of other quotes from the Science Council website as well. So this RSciTech holder talks about it's provided them with a lot more confidence about their own ability, and going through the application process gives the opportunity for a lot of self-reflection. So you do actually realise how much you've learnt and all those different skills and experiences, and bringing them all together into one application. And that person's talked about boosting their confidence as well and leading them to apply for new career opportunities. So to apply for Registered Science Technician, there are a number of eligibility points that you need to meet. These are available to read about on our website. So if you go to rsc.org and search for professional registers, you'll find a bit more detail. But I'll just touch on the eligibility points. So it's a competence-based professional designation for people like technicians, technical support staff, and apprentices or technical specialists, anyone who has those technical skills that they apply in their day-to-day work. Where it says competence-based, the application form will ask you to demonstrate how you meet a number of competencies or skills and behaviours to show you meet the standard of a professional scientist. And it shows that you've demonstrated high levels of competence and professionalism in your job role. In terms of qualification requirements, I've listed on the slide the types of qualifications to apply for Registered Science Technician, but these are suggested as the standard of Registered Science Technician is based on working at a level 3 standards. However, we have equivalency routes, so anyone without these qualifications but with lots of work experience will still be able to apply to demonstrate that they meet that level 3 standard of working. And also we require a level of professional experience, and this is a really key part of the eligibility. Because they're professional awards, They're based on work experience rather than studying, which is why they're really great to complement vocational career paths. So we recommend having at least 1 year's work experience working in an appropriate role to apply for registered science technician. And as I mentioned, you also need to be a member of a professional body. Are there any questions at that point?
Sorry, I know I've got a couple. You mentioned about being associated with a professional body. Like, so say the students that are here today, they can join the Royal Society of Chemistry, can't they, as student members? Is that
Yes.
right?
Yes, we do have a student membership category. I've got a slide on membership towards the end of the presentation.
And would that be eligible? Would that count towards being a member? That would be fine. So
yes,
okay.
Any level of membership can be used to apply for professional registration.
And the register, is it something that can be accessed internationally? Is it recognised internationally, or is it more of a British thing?
I believe it's recognised internationally, and the RSC is an international professional body, so we have got members and offices around the world.
Because I know an awful lot of international companies in the UK are looking for people who are registered in audits. I know within these companies it comes up frequently that they're looking for registered technicians, for example. So that's why I was wondering if it was an international or British thing. I'm just looking in our chat. We haven't got any other questions at the moment in the chat. I don't know, Reese, have we got any on YouTube at the moment?
No, there's no questions on YouTube at the moment. We're all clear to go.
There we go. Excellent. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Okay, so I'll move on to talking about the type of evidence you need to collect for your application. So like I said, this needs to be from a professional setting. So you can't use examples from education or college. And it also has to be recent experience, so within the past year. These examples and skills and responsibilities from your work are recorded as competencies. So this is the definition of a competency. It's the professional skills and attributes that you're expected to demonstrate. And they're set out in 5 key areas, as you can see there, A, B, C, D, E. There are 14 competencies and they're split up into these 5 key areas. I'm going to go through each competency within those 5 sections, and it's laid out as a table with examples for each. You can download a copy of the full competencies and the application form from the RSC's website. I'm just going to give an overview of the types of skills that are asked for in an application and some key points about each of those. And after I touch on each of the competencies briefly, I'm going to go through about 3 of them in a bit more detail and how you might put together an example for those competencies. So starting with A, application of knowledge and understanding. So as you can see in the table, I've got the competencies on the left-hand side, and I've provided an example, a very vague, generic example for each competency. The tables might look a bit full on, but all of the competencies are available on the website together with some further guidance. So when you're giving an example for each of the competencies, we're only looking for one example for each. So you should try and identify one situation or one example for each competency and try not to repeat yourself. So in the A competencies, these are looking for your technical skills and the science that you might have applied in a certain situation. So these answers can include a lot of technical detail and specifics, say for any scientific tests that you've done or different stages of a procedure that you've followed. Moving on to B, which is looking at personal responsibility. So because it's about personal responsibility, that's reflected in the wording for each of the competencies. So in B1, we're looking for working independently or with minimal supervision, but also knowing when to escalate something appropriately. So in the example, undertaking routine testing, but also if you get some unusual tests or you need something second checked, then knowing when to escalate that. In B2, that word demonstrate, that shows that not only are you working according to the working practices or health and safety aspects in your workplace, but you're actually taking an active role in that. And in B3, we'd like an example of where you've taken responsibility regarding quality of work. So for example, running quality control samples to make sure something's running accurately and precisely. In the C section, we are looking at interpersonal skills and things like communication. So in C1, asking about effective and appropriate communication skills. So you could consider different ways of communicating, like email, a presentation, a phone call, and why you chose one method of communication over another. In C2, we're looking at interpersonal and behavioural skills, and you can be really clear with the precise interpersonal skills in an example. And I'm going to go over this in a bit more detail in a few slides' time. And in C3, we're looking at working with other people. So we're asking about your working relationships, and these could be with colleagues or customers or engineers that come into your workplace. D is looking at professional practice. So, for example, in D2, we're looking at using resources effectively that might already be in place in your work. And in D3, we're looking at continuous process improvement. So where you have contributed to a process that's in your workplace or helped develop a new one. And finally, the E competencies are looking at professional standards. So this might be, for example, in E1, the specific certifications that you work to in your lab, like ISO 17025, but it could also be internal policies. And in E2, we're looking at where you have worked on your own competence or improved your skills. So that could be part in an annual appraisal or process, but because it's like just enhancing your competence, it also include finding some training opportunities you might go on to enhance your own skills and knowledge. And it's a combination of your answers to all competencies across the different sections that creates a really nice, well-rounded application that should be made up of robust examples from the past job. Also, if you had to prepare an endpoint assessment, examples from competency logs will be repurposed for the application and just expanded on to meet the way of structuring answers, which I'm going to talk about in more detail. But first, were there any questions about competency?
Just a quick one. Obviously, we've talked about, you've mentioned about how this is suitable for people who are doing, say, a level 3 BTEC, A levels, have the working towards or have those sort of qualifications. I don't know whether you're going to move on to this next when you talk about how you sort of structure maybe the evidence, but I was wondering how, for those who are also doing, say, an NBQ if they're an apprentice, could any of that be used as evidence, their NBQ portfolio, because it's essentially evidencing much of what you've already been through?
So we don't ask for any supporting documents or a portfolio. We might ask for evidence of a qualification, but certainly the content of that portfolio can be used. So examples from a workplace that demonstrate the specific skills that are being asked for. So it's just the application form that you need to submit.
Okay. And does it have to be 1 year continuous experience, or if you had someone who's done a broad range of shorter term placements maybe, would that count, or does it need to be that kind of 1 year continuous experience somewhere?
So what we ask for when you're completing an application is examples from a job that you have held for a certain length of time, because we would like to see examples from your current job, so how you are currently applying those skills. But also, as part of the application form, we're going to ask for a reference from a supporter, which could be a line manager. So they should be able to report on the work that they have seen you do. So it should be from one placement, one job, if that makes sense.
Yes, I understand that now. Okay, thank you.
Brilliant. Okay, if there's no more questions, I will move on to the application process. So this is the application form, which is available to download from our website. Once you've completed it and filled in all the competencies, you'll need to send that to the email address that I'm going to mention in a couple of slides' time. It's registers@rsa.org. And you also need to send in an up-to-date CV. So the application form does prompt you to attach a CV. And like I said, you also need to provide details of a supporter or a referee, who would usually be a line manager. And at the end of the application form, you're asked for a reference from them. So it might be a useful exercise to go through parts of the application with them. And there is some guidance on the form as to what the supporter reference needs to entail, and there will be some separate guidance available to download from the website for the supporter as well. So for your application for registration, we advise a certain way of putting together your answers and structuring your examples. And this is by following the share format, which clearly sets out the situation, the hindrance or the problem, the action that you took, the result of that action, and evaluating your work and the impact that it had. So this gives you an opportunity to reflect on your work and demonstrating that you understand the importance of that behaviour and the relevance of your work and how it impacts other people, like your colleagues or customers. And this kind of structure can be really helpful in other situations, like in job interviews. So it's a really good thing to practice and be able to refer to. Also, there are some guidelines on the application form. So it reminds you for each answer to only discuss one example for each competency. And each example should be between around 200 to 400 words. So that gives you lots of opportunity to talk in lots of detail and make sure each of these aspects of the share format are discussed within your example. And as I mentioned, but it does keep reminding you on the application form, just one example per competency. So I'm going to go into detail as to what this actually looks like in an answer for a competency. So I'm going to start with C1. If you recall, we're looking for effective and appropriate communication skills. And the example I'm going to use is from a real life application from a school science technician. But the communication skills that they used would be relevant to lots of different situations in different industries. So as I mentioned, each example should be between 200 to 400 words. Since that would be a lot to put on one slide, I've just taken a short extract from this example from a real life application. So I've just taken some short paragraphs to demonstrate a couple of points of the share format. So in their application for this competency, the applicant set the scene by explaining that science teachers submit requests for practicals, but the hindrance or the problem is that sometimes the requests come in late or there's not enough information provided. So they've gone on to talk about the action that they took. So they have communicated with their colleagues, so they have emailed them, and the types of communication skills they're using, so emphasising the importance of why they need to get that request in. And then they talk about taking the action of either emailing or having a face-to-face conversation. So they're actually tailoring their method of communication for the audience. So in this situation, that would be perhaps less experienced teachers. They offer to go through the practical with them to help if that's a more appropriate and effective way of communicating. And they go on to discuss the result or the impact of that work within this situation. So it reflects on the individual, but also others within the department or the customers, or in this case, students. This applicant also set out each of their answers to the competencies under those letters of the share format. So they started each paragraph with the associated aspect to make sure that they cover all of the elements. And it also helps the assessors who look over the application and make a decision. It helps them be clear that the applicant has gone over all of those different aspects and has understood that competency. So that was C1. I've got an example for C2 as well, which is looking at interpersonal and behavioural skills. And sometimes these can be a little bit trickier to talk about because they're not as tangible as technical skills. So I wanted to go through in a little bit of detail, and the example I've got is from someone working in a university lab, and it's a really good demonstration of the types of things you could discuss as interpersonal and behavioural skills, which might not immediately come to mind. The applicant started off by discussing some of the training courses that they'd been on, which included communicating and influencing, team working and self-management, and personal development through self-coaching, and how these had influenced their behaviour within the workplace. And they used a specific example of helping students within an undergraduate lab session. And within these two short paragraphs, they've picked out some really specific behaviours that they utilised to support students in the university lab. So they've taken on a calm, non-confrontational tone. They've made sure to include everyone in a meeting to make sure everyone has an opportunity to speak fully. And for the students, it's really important to listen, encouraging them and advising them, and why these are important. So they've picked out that it develops a level of respect towards those people that they're working with. Other answers from applicants discuss the importance of communication when developing interpersonal skills and working relationships, and being able to tailor any discussions based on the experience of the other party. And this includes interactions with internal colleagues, external contacts, customers, engineers, a whole range of people. And my last example is talking about continuous performance improvement, which should say continuous process improvement. Apologies, there's a mistake there. So I've set up this answer from another real application in a slightly different way. I've taken snippets from each of the headings in the share format to introduce how a full answer would be structured. So in this example, the applicant is discussing the importance of SOPs when carrying out a procedure. So they've talked about following an analytical method and exactly what that method stated for the sample preparation and why it's important. They have identified that a process document wasn't fit for purpose, not user-friendly, so that's the hindrance or the problem. And then they've specified exactly what wasn't fit for purpose about it. And then they described the action they took to improve the process and therefore the performance of the analytical team. So they made a suggestion of how it could be improved and why those improvements would be beneficial. They've given the result, but also how the overall team reacted positively to the improvement, and finally the impact or the evaluation of their work. So they've really nicely set out all aspects of that share format. And like I said, you can use those headings in your example if it would be helpful. So once we have compiled all our evidence, we've put together our examples for all the competencies, and you have completed the application form, we'll send that together with an up-to-date CV to registers@rsc.org. That comes to me, and I will have a quick look through, make sure everything's been answered, and I might also offer some suggestions as to where some more detail can be added. Once you have looked at and addressed those suggestions, I'll then send your application to the external assessors. And these are professionals who have registered scientist status or a higher award, and they have lots of professional experience as well. They have 8 weeks to assess your application and then return their recommendations and requests for more detail in any of the answers. And assessors always request more information because they don't get the chance to discuss your work or the competencies directly with you. So they need as much detail and specifics as possible to fully understand how you meet the competencies. So they might come back with some specific questions that they'd like answered. So I'll send you that feedback and where they'd like some more information. And then once you've made the revisions, email it back to registers@rsc.org, and then I'll pass it back to those same assessors to make sure they're happy with your amended answers. And they've got about 2 weeks to check over your application form, and providing the extra detail satisfies their request, I'll then get in touch to say that your application was successful and that you've been awarded Registered Science Technician, or whichever award you've gone for. Are there any questions?
You talked about once you become a registered, say, science technician, how do you maintain that status then?
That's a really good question. Thank you, Amy. So once you have completed your application form and you've been awarded the professional status, then you'll need to renew it every year. Sorry, the sun's just come out. So you need to renew your status every year. And once you've been a registered science technician for about 2 years, we might like to see evidence that you are continuing to develop within your career and completing continued professional development, or CPD. So we'd get in touch around the spring to say we'd like to see evidence that you are meeting standards. So you might have been on training courses, you might have done some training in your workplace, you might have done some volunteering, any type of activity that has supported your professional development. So you would put all that together in a form, and we call that revalidation, because you are revalidating your award and demonstrating that you still meet those standards of registered science technician. So then you would send that to that same email address, registers@rsc.org, and we would get in touch with our assessors again. So the assessors check your initial application, but also any revalidation that we ask for. And they would have a look over to make sure that you are still meeting the standards of competence, but also that you are continuing to progress in your career. We don't call on you every year, and we also don't call on all our award holders. We're only going to choose a small sample. So it could be that you get called on within the next 2 years, or it could be 3 years. It just depends on who is randomly selected to provide that evidence of continuing professional development.
And if, say, someone wanted to progress on to becoming a registered scientist from science technician, would they have to go through a whole new sort of start from scratch with their application, or would they just have to show you the additional evidence to kind of move up from one status to the next, as it were?
It is a separate application process. So we have slightly different competencies. In fact, there are 15 for registered scientists. but it's a really, really clear development from registered science technician to registered scientist. So it is those same skills that you've already demonstrated, but just a little bit more responsibility, maybe a little bit more impact in your workplace. So it is a separate application form, but you are already using a lot of those skills that we ask you for.
Okay, thank you. I don't know if we've got any questions on YouTube. The sort of questions within the chat is just more that we've obviously got interest that about sort of becoming a registered science technician, and it's just more, can they see your information again? And yeah, if we can possibly have a copy of your presentation as well. Obviously a lot of information for people, but they are interested. And are there any costs attributed to the process?
Yeah, so to apply for registered science technician, like I mentioned, you do need a membership to a professional body. So that is an annual cost, but also to apply for registered science technician, it costs £15.50, and that's to apply for registered status, and then every year you'll need to pay £15.50 to keep that status. But depending on where you work, sometimes the employer will pay for that for you. But it's very much dependent on each individual employer. I'm just going to close my blinds.
I am aware that some of the employers that I work with, because it's desirable to have that status, they will pay for their employees to have that status and go through the process, and they do encourage it. So it's definitely worthwhile, and I can definitely see that the vocational programs are certainly getting students already to think about a lot of these skills. So I don't think it'll be too much of a problem once they go out to work. If they're not already working alongside that program, I can see how they can obtain this status probably quite easily, really.
Yeah, so we've got some resources on our website, and I think next I'm going to go through some next steps to where you might go from here. If there are any more questions about the application process, otherwise it might be that I go on to talk about anything you're wondering.
I think we're okay here. I'm assuming it's the same on YouTube.
Yeah, all clear, all good to go. No new questions or anything.
Great. Okay, so what happens next? So I would suggest going on to the RSC's website, maybe have a look at some of the guidance that's available, have a look at the application form, and you can download it for free. And you can make any notes next to any of the competencies as well, if there are any examples that come to mind straight away that you could use to demonstrate the skills. And you can bear in mind those competencies while you're going about your day-to-day work. We've also got 3 YouTube videos that we uploaded at the end of last year, and they go through some of the benefits of professional registration, eligibility, and advice on completing your application form. I've been talking about membership. So for the Royal Society of Chemistry, we have lots of different membership options. So these are the 3 that might be most applicable to you. So we have affiliate membership, but we also have apprentice and student membership. That comes under the umbrella of affiliate. But for apprentices and students, it is a lot cheaper. So it's only £20 for a whole year of membership. There are lots and lots of different benefits of being a member of a professional body. So I've included some on the screen. So at any membership level, you can apply for professional registration. For technicians, we have 2 different grants that you could apply for, and these would support you in attending training, conferences, networking events, going on visits. So that could be that you've identified somewhere where you'd like to learn a new skill. So we would then support you and pay for you to go and visit and have that development opportunity. A free subscription to Chemistry World magazine. We have career support services. Member-run groups, so we have local sections across the UK and Ireland, and these are made up of members in your area, and they might run specialised events just in that region. There are lots of other things like discounts on books, newsletters that give you all the latest updates and opportunities from the RSC, and a number of other things. Also, the member level of associate gives you those letters that you get to use after your name. So that's a public demonstration of your membership to a professional body. The RSC also offers a discount on membership rates for members who earn less than £28,000 a year. And we've got a brand new membership area to manage your membership at any level, and your professional registration details will show up there as well. So where to go for support? I've mentioned it quite a few times, but registers@rsc.org. Those emails will come straight to me. I'm available for any help or guidance about anything about the professional registration process, about applying, or any questions you have about anything to do with registered science technician, or any other questions about the Royal Society of Chemistry, and I'll be happy to try and answer them. And if it's something I don't know about, I'm sure I know someone who will be able to help you. So going back to those session aims, hopefully now you know what professional registration is. You understand the relevance and the benefits. You should have an idea of what the application process entails, and you should know where to get support from. So thank you very much for your attention. Were there any final questions I can help with?
So again, there's nothing on the YouTube channel, so Amy, I'm not sure if there's anything else that you guys may have or anything.
Anybody got any questions on here? Immediate questions. I think they're kind of absorbing all the information at the moment. For those students that are here today, I would say that it is worth joining the Royal Society of Chemistry, and particularly at the end of your qualification, if you're going out for jobs and that, it does show that you're sort of committed to a career in a particular field as well. It shows your sort of interest, you're engaged in that field. So I would definitely recommend joining a society associated with the field that you're interested in going into, like the Royal Society of Chemistry now. So if you haven't got any other questions.
Sorry, there is one question. Joshua Barlow's asked, I know you mentioned we have career advice and guidance with the status, but do the Royal Society of Chemistry run any employer or networking events?
So the RSC run lots of different types of events. They're generally focused on the Royal Society of Chemistry, but they might be about interests. Some might be to do with networks, and we have a number of interest groups and divisions. So it might be that joining one of those gives you opportunities for networking and associated events. But we also have lots of events on careers, and I know the next session is going to be talking about some careers. So it might be that Lakshmi can discuss opportunities for careers events with the RSC.
That segues nicely. No, thank you for that question. We have in the past run employer networking events, and as Catherine says, there are local sections as well as interest groups. When you become a member, you're given an opportunity to join these, and they will run events that could well be linked to local employers, and you'd be notified about that. And as you say, with the interest groups, it would be based on the area of chemistry that you were interested in, and typically you'd get maybe some academics and some employers along to that in a conference format. But I mean, it's really useful to hear that there's an appetite for that, because we run a monthly webinar series on different careers, sectors within chemistry, and there are employers on that, but there aren't actual networking events at the moment around that within careers. Well, shall I just take it from here then, Amy? Okay. So yes, I'm Lakshmi, and I've got a short presentation because it's been a long day and it's more inspirational than anything else. So let's hope it works. Right. Just going to share my screen. You can see the presentation started.
Yep.
Can you see notes, or can you see just a blank a visual?
Yeah, we can just see the visual. That's great.
Great. Okay. So yeah. So as you know, I'm going to talk to you about how rewarding a chemistry career can be, both for your pocket and your contribution to humanity's most pressing issues. So to begin with, I'd like to just share a short video of some early career chemists explaining what made them choose it as a career, and I think it sort of speaks for itself. Provide.
Lakshmi, I don't know if you want to pause the video. We can't hear the sound.
Okay. Thank you for telling me that.
No problems. If you pause the video, then stop sharing and reshare your screen, but click the bottom left. There's a share sound button.
Okay, thank you. I'll do that. So let me just try again.
So if you now reshare your screen, and then this should be the bottom left, and just to click before you start.
It's allowed me to unlock a deeper understanding of the world around me.
It's now formed the basis of my life. It's what I do every single day.
It is a very complex subject, and it's a subject that always makes you think, and it challenges you.
Can you hear that?
Yeah, that's great.
But we seem to have now frozen. It's perhaps a bit ambitious.
there isn't any aspect of your life which isn't enabled or affected by chemistry.
The fact that I'm constantly achieving goals, it keeps each day rolling and I feel satisfied.
I got to apply chemistry to real-life problem, in this case fighting in the war on plastics.
I know that what I'm doing will make a positive change to the world.
I'm really proud to be a chemist. I feel really valued at work and I feel like I make a difference.
I chose chemistry because it means that I can help develop life-changing medicines.
I'm really proud of what I do and I'm really proud of being a chemist.
Chemistry is basically the answer to most everything, because everything in the world is made from chemistry.
Okay, so can I just check you're seeing the main slides, not my notes, before I carry on? Hello?
We can see your notes as well now.
Oh, you can?
Both.
All right, let me swap. Right. Better?
Just the
Okay.
slide. Just the slide now, yeah.
Okay, so yes, all those people in those videos are real life chemists who are speaking for themselves as to why they chose chemistry and how it's not just it's a career that's very rewarding in terms of what you can do to solve some of what we're facing as humanity. But before we go into that, I mean, the thing to do if you're thinking about your career is something that's going to be enjoyable for you is to think about yourself and do a bit of self-inquiry about what you enjoy and how you spend your time. You know, do you like gaming? Do you like socializing, writing? I mean, these things are really going to be important to identify for you to feel that you have a rewarding time. I mean, you need to think about things like how important financial security is to you, whether you want to make a difference in some way. I mean, that may not be your overarching aim at this point. We know that 92% of our community at the RSC do think that challenging work is really important to them in a role. And from Catherine's, outline, there's being a professionally recognized is an important aspect to them, but that's something you can only answer, and it's important that you do ask yourself that before you embark. And once you've sort of done that, then you need to think about where you might like to work too, because most chemists are employed in smaller companies. In fact, 80% of our members work for small to medium enterprises, and they're going to give you lots of different, it'd be fast paced, and you're unlikely to just be doing chemistry, and that might suit you. But you also might find that very pressured, whereas in sort of larger industries, you're going to larger companies, you'll be working on something possibly more defined, and there'll be deadlines, there'll be good financial rewards, and then an educational environment, which again employs an awful lot of chemists, and that's a place that's a more reflective environment normally. So yeah, worth asking yourself those. I mean, this slide, write it down. I can give you a couple of seconds just to maybe jot down a few thoughts around that have sprung to mind. One of my colleagues says, your nose isn't going to grow longer by not being honest with yourself, but you may not have a job that you like. Okay, so now on to chemistry in a bit more detail, where that could lead you. As a chemical scientist, there are sort of several areas that you can choose. I mean, there's the obvious medicinal chemists and the drug discovery route, where you'll be working on molecules for potential new medicines that can lead to curing devastating diseases. And so the coronavirus vaccine is an obvious example of where there have been many chemists and biochemists working to get us closer to how we used to all interact with one another and not be ill. And then, as you saw from that video, the whole pollution and climate, the whole impact that we're having with our consumable products, and plastic in particular, that there are many chemists working on finding ways to make plastic biodegradable, and looking at other pollutants and how to make us more sustainable in the way that we live with manufacturing materials. Environmental chemists and atmospheric chemists monitor and report on emissions and advise on how we can reduce those. So that's just a few ways that you could be making a difference as a chemical scientist. Here's some more facts. Where do chemical scientists work? Well, there were 275,000 chemistry using professionals in the UK, and actually when you think about, they're the core, and then that's another 200,000 on top who are sort of on the peripherals of that core. You can see most of them are working in scientific research and development. Now that can span across different areas. You know, we looked at education, and larger companies, and even smaller companies need some R&D. So it's the actual what you'll be doing, rather than you'd be doing research and development, but you might be doing it on very different things. So you could be doing it on batteries and alternative fuels, or you might be doing it on medicine leads or potential new medicines. I think it's worth mentioning on this page that robotics and AI are allowing scientists in R&D to really boost their research. So the activities that might have been done in the past by a human can be done by a robot, and that does then put the emphasis on you thinking about the results of what you want from things, rather than having to go through the whole process. So that's another area that chemical scientists are working in now. Where our Royal Society of Chemistry members work, which is a sort of subgroup of that larger infographic. You can see most of us work in university research, so it's backing that up, it's scientific research and development. And then, as I said, this sort of robots side of things, the IT and computers, energy and the environment, and then the medicines and drug research. As a chemical scientist, here are some of the titles that you may have if you go into it as a job. And if you're sort of an analytical chemist, you're going to be checking what's in substances, breath samples or blood at a crime scene. And as a development chemist, you'll be developing things that are made from chemical reactions, such as inks and makeup, fertilizers. I mentioned about the environmental chemist, you'll be finding out what's in the water and soil to understand the world better and how we affect it. I've put in lab technician because it's a lab technician day today. The Gatsby Foundation has found out that we're going to need 700,000 technicians to support the economy as we go forward by 2030. So it's an area where we're looking for which is getting bigger. And there are currently over 1.5 million technicians employed in the UK. So if you're looking for something, if you're looking for a job immediately, being a lab technician is certainly a role that's going to be available to you, and a very rewarding one as well. And I wanted to also talk about the skills that you're learning as a chemical scientist. Again, useful if you want to go and get RSI register, but whether or not you do, you're going to be getting some skills that are really important for the future and what employers are looking for. So analytical thinking and critical thinking, I'll just pull out a few. And with lab work, you're observing, researching, and sort of developing these critical insights from experiments and data. And that's exactly what analytical thinking is, really. The creative, this chart here comes from the World Economic Forum's view, having spoken to companies and employers about what skills are going to be needed in the future. And you can see there is technology and design on there, but actually at the top is the analytical thinking and being creative. And that's the willingness to take on responsibilities and challenge and have new ideas. And alongside robots, you see, they can carry out a number of experiments, perhaps 700 in a week. And you can then be creative about how these robots can kind of speed up research that needs to get out there. So I think the active learning in chemical scientists is a skill you have to develop, because there's always new things that you have to assess whether you have to make that decision on learning them, and you have to find ways that are going to work for you to learn them. So a career in chemistry will give you skills that will be transferable and will help you be sort of employable. They're future-proof you, whatever happens in your life, in your professional life. Again, these employers and value chemistry. You could be as science policy advisors or working for government. Your patent lawyers, which is this helping people to protect their ideas, you need to know chemistry or science in general if you're going to be a decent patent lawyer, because you have to make the case for this being original and being worth protecting. Again, the Pfizer and AstraZeneca vaccinations will definitely have been patented to protect them and to get them out there to market as well. And then a big area as a chemist is that were you not to be in the lab, would be that you can go and explain chemistry and science to the wider public, which is extremely important for us to do in order to sort of make sure people are aware of new discoveries and how they impact them, and just have a sense of how they're interacting with the world and what's safe and what isn't. Here's another slide about what else you can do with chemistry. So the financial services, a third of students who study chemistry at Cambridge go into the financial services. So, you know, if money is an issue, then that would always be a fallback for you. I think at this point, I'll move on to what chemical scientists are paid, because that, again, is an interesting area. It's not just rewarding in terms of what you're learning and the contribution you can make, it's actually financially rewarding too. So at the moment, the contribution of chemistry using professionals to the UK in 2019 was estimated to be £87 billion. And this, you can see from this slide that you start with a higher salary than other graduates. Obviously, if you don't want to go to university, you'll also be likely to earn more later on, especially if you become a member of the Royal Society of Chemistry, where we have we do a survey every 2 years with our members, and part of that is to tell us what they earn. And from 2019, the median salary was 45,000, which is actually above the salary of a chemist outside of the Royal Society of Chemistry. But that's by the by. It's a decent salary. I thought I'd touch on some of the ways chemistry is used at work. I heard Lewis speaking about chromatography and titration, and that's a happy coincidence that analytical. I just thought it'd be interesting to see that, in fact, you'd be using chromatography when if you went into sort of an analytical chemistry role, checking human samples, or automative chemists use electrolysis, and food scientists use titration. There are many others. I just sort of pull out a few just so that you can see that what you're learning now has immediate sort of application in work. So how to get qualified? I think most of you here today are at sort of BTEC or A-levels or that sort of level. So your options are, you know, as you will probably know, is and the slide shows you could go for a university degree, or you could go for an apprenticeship, or go straight into work. And there are lots of different ways of doing it. I think at the moment, the majority still go the route to university, but our apprenticeships, more and more people go into apprenticeships as well. And on a Future in Chemistry website, we have a number of chemists explaining why they chose an apprenticeship, and how then they went on to turn it into a degree. And that certainly seems to be a very sensible route. So now what? If you want to find out more about roles in chemistry, I would suggest you look at our website, A Future in Chemistry. I'd also suggest you talk to a career advisor, teacher, family, and look at science journals as well. I mean, we have Chemistry World online, and that will, and perhaps look at the job sections, the sort of things that they look for, their experience, and familiarize yourself with what the jobs are called. New Scientist is another one, and you'll find out what sort of experience or what sort of skills that they are looking for. And I'll just finish with these useful links, which I can circulate. I can cut and paste those for anyone who wants them into the chat, or provide you with the slides. And thank you very much for listening. And I don't know if you have any questions, but I'm here to answer any should you.
Thank you for that. If we could have those links as well, that I can pass them on to some of my colleagues who are here today. So some of the other lecturers who have sort of brought students along today, that would be great. But no, thank you for that. I was just having a look at the chat here quickly. Right. No, we're good on this chat. How are we doing on the YouTube chat?
Yeah, no, there's no questions on the YouTube chat. Obviously, just on our chat, Maisie, who's just said thank you, but she doesn't have any questions, but just thank you for the information.
Yes, I think we all needed that talk today. Very informative. Thank you. I think at the moment, maybe when students are sort of starting to flag with online learning and that, I think it was lovely for them to see what lies ahead potentially for them and all the different options that they've got. And it was really nice to have quite a positive presentation there. So, okay. Do you mind if I contact you if students have any questions after the event?
No, that's fantastic. Yes, I'd be delighted with any students to get in touch.
There we go. Okay then. Perfect. Just checking. I think that just leaves me then to say thank you very much for the presentations today. So thank you, Lewis, and Catherine and Lakshmi as well for those presentations. Really informative, really helpful. I'm sure everyone's found those really useful. And I'd like to say as well, thank you very much to all of you who participated in today's event, and also to your lecturers for supporting you through all the training and helping you to prepare for today as well. We're not going to release any of the results today because they have to be verified and checked and so on, but I will be in touch soon to announce the winners. But thank you ever so much to everyone for participating today and all the effort that you've put into being here today as well. So thank you very much. And I think that's it.
Yeah, just a big thank you and well done everybody for competing today. It's really been good. So thank you very much, and thank you to our guest speakers as well.
Yes, well done everyone. The results are going to be verified because I can confirm they were all very close. I do need them all double checked before I release results. So well done, you all did so well, and especially in the current